The sky tore itself apart over Frost Peak, Colorado. Inside a rattling, rusty pickup truck, the air was freezing, thick with the smell of spilled coffee and a man's cold fury. A 7-year-old boy, Liam, was shielding his 5-year-old sister, Mia. She was clutching a one-eyed stuffed rabbit, Patches. Their stepfather called it training. The world calls it abandonment. He shoved them into a snowbank and drove off. The taillights vanished. They were left alone, abandoned to die. But this little boy, armed only with a broken shoelace and an unbreakable will, was about to rise up. In Frost Peak, Colorado, the world had been reduced to a screaming white void. It was a high-altitude blizzard, a roaring siege of ice particles. Inside the groaning cab of a rust-eaten pickup truck, the atmosphere was as volatile as the storm. At the wheel sat Drake, a man in his late 30s whose face looked chiseled from cold resentment. His eyes, the color of wet slate, were fixed on the failing wipers. Huddled against the passenger door was 7-year-old Liam. Small for his age, but possessing watchful ancient eyes. Pressed against him was his 5-year-old sister, Mia, trembling constantly. She clutched a threadbare, one-eyed stuffed rabbit named Patches, her face pale and her lips tinged with blue. The crisis had detonated minutes before. Drake had forced his scalding coffee into Mia's hands. Her small, numb fingers had failed. The cup buckled, and hot liquid erupted over the gear stick and Drake's thigh. Mia's shriek of pain was obliterated by Drake's roar, a sound of pure animalistic rage. But instead of another blow, a terrible, calculated silence had fallen. Drake wrestled the truck off the main highway onto the forest access road. He skidded to a halt in a windswept clearing and cut the engine. The sudden silence, broken only by the shriek of the wind, was terrifying. Out. The command was flat, absolute. Drake stormed around, yanked the door open, and the Arctic blast flooded the cab. He grabbed Liam by his thin coat, hauled him out, and dumped him into a drift that swallowed him to his waist. Mia shrieked, clinging to the seat, but Drake peeled her fingers away and shoved her out after him. "A few hours out here, you'll learn respect," Drake snarled. "This is training. This is how you get strong." He climbed back in. The engine roared, and the truck's red tail lights dissolved into the swirling white void. The cold was a physical blow, 1,000 needles driving into Liam's exposed skin, stealing his breath. He saw a flash of pink, Mia's hat, and plunged his arms into the snow, pulling her rigid body upright. She was locked in a silent, terrified wail. "Mia, Mia, we have to move," he screamed. He scanned the clearing and spotted it, a dark shadow at the edge of the trees. A massive, ancient pine, its lowest branches sweeping the ground like a heavy skirt. It was shelter. He grabbed Mia's hand, half dragging, half carrying her. He shoved past the icy, scratching branches and found it. A hollow at the base of the trunk, a deep scar of decay, smelling of resin and damp earth. He pushed Mia inside and scrambled in after her. The hollow was shielded from the direct wind, but the cold seeped up from the frozen ground. Mia was shaking so violently her teeth chattered. "He's broken," she whimpered, holding up Patches. The fall from the truck had torn a long seam in the rabbit's back. "No," Liam said. His gaze dropped to his feet. His fingers were stiff, useless blocks of wood, but he clawed at his wet sneakers, yanking at the knot until the damp shoelace snapped. It was enough. He took the frayed lace and began stitching the rabbit. His hands were clumsy, the stitches uneven, but he pulled the seam tight. It wasn't sewing. It was an act of pure will, a desperate refusal to let one more thing be destroyed. He tied a fumbling knot and pushed the mended rabbit back into Mia's arms. Then, ignoring the cold that immediately attacked his chest, Liam unzipped his own thin jacket, draped it over his sister, and pulled her body tight against his. Officer Ben Carter, a man in his mid-40s, navigated the roads more by memory than by sight. His eyes held a deep, settled sorrow that had become part of him years ago. This storm scraped raw the old grief for his own son, Jake, lost at age 8 to a swift fever. That loss had reshaped Ben, forging his empathy into a shield and his sense of duty into an obsession. Beside him was Zeus, a magnificent 90-pound German shepherd at the peak of his 7-year career. His eyes held an unnerving, focused intelligence. Zeus was Ben's partner and anchor. The radio crackled. "All units be advised. Report of a reckless pickup dark color, older model, vicinity of the National Forest Access Road, possible DUI. Ben keyed the mic, 304. I'm in the area. Proceeding. When he reached the clearing, the pickup was gone. The wind was already sculpting new drifts. Protocol dictated he logged the call and returned to patrolling. He put the SUV in reverse. And then Zeus broke protocol. It wasn't a bark, but a low, pressurized woof from deep in his chest. His ears went flat, and he pushed his nose against the air vent. He turned his head, his focus absolute, locked onto the tree. What is it, bud? Ben murmured, pulling back into park. Zeus whined, a high-pitched urgent sound, and pawed at the door. He was trained to find narcotics, explosives, and suspects. But this alert was different. This was his human alert, the one he used when he found lost hikers. Ben's blood ran cold. Okay, Ben said quietly, decisively. He trusted the dog more than he trusted his own eyes. He zipped his heavy-duty parka to his chin and hit the button to open the K9 door. Zeus exploded from the SUV, his paws sinking deep into the powder, moving with purpose. Seek Zeus. Fine. The shepherd didn't hesitate. He plunged into the drifts, following an invisible thread. Ben followed, his heavy boots sinking, the world reduced to the beam of his flashlight and the dark, driving shape of his partner. Zeus stopped at the base of an ancient scarred pine and began to bark, a sharp, controlled sound that cut through the howl of the storm. Ben pushed the heavy snow-laden branches aside. He stopped. His heart seemed to cease altogether. He saw them, a tangle of limbs and thin, inadequate clothing, huddled in a dark hollow of the trunk. Then the tangle moved. A small head lifted, and the beam caught the eyes of a child. It was a boy, his face streaked with frozen tears. His expression not one of relief, but of primal, cornered animal ferocity. He was shielding an even smaller, terrifyingly still form. Mia, go away, Liam shrieked. Get out. Ben froze, holding his hands up slowly. It's okay, son. I'm the police. I'm here to help. No, you'll hurt us. Go away. Liam's small, frozen hands searched the ground for a rock, a stick, anything to fight with. Ben's heart broke. This wasn't just a child lost in a storm. This was a child who expected cruelty. He saw the little girl's pale face, her blue lips. He saw the stuffed rabbit in her lap, its back crudely stitched together with what looked like a shoelace. That detail hit Ben harder than the cold. This boy hadn't just protected his sister. He had tried to mend her world. I won't hurt you, Ben said, his voice rough with emotion. I promise. My name is Ben. This is Zeus. Liam flinched, bracing for a blow as Ben took one step closer. But the man didn't move. Instead, Zeus crept forward, low and non-threatening, past Ben's legs. He nudged his massive head under the branches and licked the girl's frozen, exposed hand. Mia, who had been unconscious, stirred with a faint moan, her fingers instinctively curling into the dog's thick fur. Liam stared, his defiance cracking, his eyes wide with disbelief as the huge, powerful animal simply stood there, a warm, breathing presence in their frozen tomb. Ben moved, his actions precise. Riley, 304, he spoke into his shoulder mic. I have 2 pediatric victims, severe exposure confirmed. I need EMS at my location now. I'm bringing them out. Son, I'm getting you both out, Ben said. He ripped his own heavy-duty patrol parka off and wrapped it around Mia's tiny, unmoving form. He scooped her up. She weighed almost nothing. Then he looked at Liam. You're next. We go together. Liam flinched as Ben reached for him. But the arm that looped under his legs was firm, steady, and lifted him with an efficiency that wasn't violent. Ben grunted, settling the weight of both children against his chest. Zeus, lead, he commanded. The shepherd turned and began breaking trail back toward the SUV. The trek back was a nightmare of burning lungs and screaming muscles. By the time Ben burst from the tree line, the clearing was awash in the flashing red and blue lights of the ambulance. 2 paramedics met him at the SUV. Severe hypothermia both, Ben stated, transferring Mia to the gurney. Male 7, female 5. Female was unresponsive. Frost Peak General Hospital's emergency bay was a stark, sterile shock of light and noise. Dr. Evelyn Aris, the attending ER physician, was a tall woman in her 40s. Her movements were sharp, economical, and her dark eyes missed nothing. I need him calm or I can't work, she said. June, see to him. Nurse June Albright bustled over, older and shorter, with a soft round face and kind eyes. Hello, sweetheart, she murmured. My name is June. We're going to get these wet clothes off you and get you warm. You are so brave. Liam fought her. Where's my sister? Where's Zeus? Your sister is right next door, June soothed. And the officer and his dog are right outside that door. Ben stood in the doorway. We're right here, son. Dr. Eris was working on Liam when Nurse June began to gently clean the grime from his torso. She stopped. Her hand hovered, and she let out a small choked sound. Doctor. Dr. Eris looked over and then went still. The room became deathly quiet. Ben stepped forward, a cold dread pooling in his stomach. Liam's small, thin chest was a road map of suffering. There were bruises, old and new. Sickly yellow-green marks on his ribs, a fresh, violent purple bloom on his shoulder. But it was the other mark that made Ben's vision narrow. On his left forearm was an older puckered scar. That's a cigarette burn, Dr. Eris said, her voice dropping to a clinical dangerous flatline. June, document it. Get photos of everything. She moved to Liam's back, cataloging every injury. Multiple contusions, various stages of healing. This is not new. She looked up, her dark eyes meeting Ben's, and the professional mask hardened into cold fury. Officer Carter, your rescue just became a crime scene. I'm calling CPS. Ben nodded curtly. They're already on their way. Their names are Liam and Mia. Nurse June continued to clean Liam, who was trembling, not from cold, but from the shame of exposure. She found the stuffed rabbit patches tucked inside his shirt. Oh, you sweet boy, she whispered, her voice breaking. You fixed him. The social worker arrived within the hour. Eva Rostova was all business, her face weary, carrying a heavy leather briefcase. She looked like she'd seen too much and slept too little. Liam, now in a warm hospital gown, refused to sleep, his eyes tracking every adult who entered the room. Ben looked at the terrified boy. He made a decision. He needs a guardian. Until this is settled, he's not going anywhere, and neither am I. He turned to a deputy. Go to my unit. Bring Zeus. He's not a pet. He's a therapy K9. He stays. When Zeus was led into the room, Liam, who had been shrinking from every touch, uncurled. The shepherd walked to the bedside and laid his massive head on the edge of the mattress. Liam slowly, tentatively put his small, scarred hand on the dog's fur. Ben Carter pulled a visitor's chair to the bedside, sat down, and did not move. Eva Rostova stood in the doorway. Officer Carter, I'm glad he's stable. I need to take his preliminary statement. Alone. Ben tensed. Ms. Rostova, the boy is suffering from severe exposure and trauma. He's just fallen asleep. Can't this wait until morning? Eva stepped fully into the room. The man who did this, Drake, is in the wind. I need a statement to get the emergency pickup order signed by a judge. The legal clock is ticking, officer. Now, Ben recognized the intractable wall of procedure. I'm not leaving. And neither is the dog. You can interview him, but we stay. That's the deal. Eva sized up the situation and gave a curt nod. Fine, but stay out of it. She pulled the visitor's chair closer. Liam, she began. My name is Eva. I'm here to make sure you're safe. I need you to tell me what happened tonight. Liam stared at her, his throat working, but no sound emerged. He shot a desperate look at Ben. Son, it's okay, Ben murmured. Just tell her the truth. Liam, did Drake hit you tonight? Eva pressed. Liam shook his head, a tiny jerky movement. He yelled. Did he hit your sister, Mia? A flicker of anger in the boy's eyes. He made her cry. It was the coffee. Eva sighed, clearly frustrated. We know about the old injuries, Liam. The burn, the bruises. You have to tell me who did that. Silence. Liam's gaze was fixed on the wall, his jaw set. Eva tried a different tactic. Look, if you don't help me, I can't keep you safe. Drake is still out there. He's a violent man. What if he comes looking for you and Mia? It was like a switch had been thrown. The boy's practiced stoic mask dissolved into pure primal terror. His heart monitor skipped, its rhythm accelerating. No, he gasped, sitting bolt upright, his eyes wild. He can't find us. You said we were safe. He is safe. Ben cut in, shooting a warning look at Eva. He'll find us, Liam choked out. He always finds us. He said he would. He looked past Eva, his eyes locking on Ben. You, he whispered. You're a cop. You can stop him. Before Ben could answer, Liam scrambled for the bundle of his dirty, frozen clothes. He ripped the bag open and retrieved patches. Liam, what are you doing? That's just a toy. Eva started. It's not, he hissed. His fingers tore at the crude stitches of the shoelace he had used in the forest. He pulled at the seam, ripping it open, his breaths coming in short, panicked gasps. He plunged his small hand into the stuffing. Ben rose from his chair, sensing something critical. Liam's fingers closed around a hard, small object. He pulled it out. It was a smartphone, an old model with a spiderweb crack across the screen, wrapped tightly in a napkin. He threw it. Liam panted, holding the phone out to Ben like an offering. He threw it at Mom. He thought it broke, but I took it. I kept it hidden. Ben took the phone. It was cold, dead. June, he called. I need a universal charger now. While June fetched one, Ben looked at the boy. Who did you hide this from, Liam? From Drake, Liam whispered. He said he'd kill her if she ever called. I kept it for Mom. A cold, heavy stone settled in Ben's gut. Mom, where is your mother, Liam? Eva asked softly. Liam's face crumpled. She's gone. She got sick. Drake said it was her fault. June returned with the charger. Ben plugged it in. For a long minute. Nothing. Then the screen flickered to life. It was locked. The code, Ben said gently. Liam, what's the code? Mia's birthday, Liam whispered. 1-1-1-0-3. Ben typed it in. The phone unlocked. The gallery had only 4 items. 2 blurry photos of a cat and 2 video files. Ben tapped the first file. The video was short, grainy, filmed from a low angle. A woman's voice pleading, Drake, stop. Please, you're scaring them. Then Drake's voice, slurred and monstrous. You think this is scary? I'll show you scary. The sound of a sharp, heavy slap echoed, and the phone clattered to the floor. The video ended. Eva Rostova let out an involuntary, choked breath. Ben's jaw was granite. He clicked the second video. This one was filmed from inside something, a closet or a cabinet, looking through a crack. It showed a small, dirty kitchen. It showed Drake and a thin, pale woman with blonde hair, their mother. He was backing her against the wall. He shoved her hard. The thud of her head hitting the drywall was sickeningly clear. You'll never leave, Drake's voice snarled. You and these brats, you're mine. Ben stopped the video. He looked at Liam, who had filmed this, who had hidden this, who had carried this secret inside a stuffed animal through a blizzard. Eva Rostova slowly, deliberately closed her file. The procedural mask was gone, replaced by a cold human fury. He's not a victim, she said, her voice shaking slightly. He's a material witness to felony assault and domestic terror. She looked at Ben. He can't go into the system. Drake knows the system. He'd find him. He needs protection. She pulled out her own phone. I'm authorizing an emergency placement with you, Officer Carter. It's the only place he's safe. You're bonded and you're armed. Ben looked at Liam. The boy, the secret finally released, had collapsed back onto the pillow, his small body finally surrendering to exhaustion. He was asleep in seconds. Ben nodded at Eva. I'll take them both. Mia, too. The blizzard had broken by dawn. The drive to his house was thick with unspoken tension. Liam and Mia sat in the back, strapped rigidly into their seats. Liam's head was on a constant swivel. Mia just stared, her small hand clutching patches so tightly her knuckles were white. Zeus sat in the front passenger area, a silent, panting sentinel. Ben's house was a simple A-frame setback from the road. It was a quiet house, a house defined by absences. When Ben opened the door, Zeus trotted in and collapsed onto his rug by the fireplace. The children did not move. They stood dripping on the entryway mat, their small bodies rigid. This is it, Ben said. This is home. The word hung in the air, toxic and alien. You can take your shoes off, Ben added awkwardly. Liam's eyes darted around the room, cataloging exits, windows, potential weapons. He nudged Mia forward, and they slowly removed their boots, placing them perfectly parallel on the mat. Where is the room? Liam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Ben led them to the guest room. It was simple, clean, and impersonal with 2 twin beds covered in identical blue comforters. Liam and Mia entered, but they didn't explore. They stood in the exact center of the room, their arms stiff at their sides. Are you hungry? Ben tried. I can make some lunch. Grilled cheese. Liam flinched. He looked at Ben, seeking the truth. What are the rules? Ben blinked, thrown. The rules. The rules, Liam repeated, his voice gaining a hard robotic edge. What time is quiet time? What do we do when you're angry? Can we use the bathroom after dark? What happens if we spill? The questions hit Ben like physical blows. He realized he wasn't just giving them shelter. He was deprogramming them. He crouched down, forcing himself to be on their level. Okay, Liam, we need new rules. My rules are different. He took a breath. Rule 1, the kitchen is always open. If you are hungry, you eat. You don't have to ask. He pointed to the refrigerator. Always. Rule 2, there is no quiet time. You're kids. You can laugh. You can play. You won't be punished for making noise. Liam's skepticism was a physical wall. Rule 3, doors. Ben pointed to his own bedroom. My door stays open. This door, he tapped their door, only gets closed if you close it. I will always knock. No one will ever barge in here. He paused. And the last rule, Liam, the most important one. I will get frustrated. I'm human, but I will never use my hands. I will never get angry like that. When I'm upset, I go outside or I talk to Zeus. That's it. That's the list. He made grilled cheese sandwiches in the quiet kitchen. He placed the plates on the small dining table. The children sat, staring at the food. Mia, still utterly silent, just held hers. Liam, watching Ben with hawk-like intensity, took one small bird-like bite. Then another. Then, with a speed that startled Ben, Liam grabbed the remaining 3/4 of his sandwich and shoved it deep into the pocket of his new sweatshirt. Ben's first instinct was to reprimand him. He saw the immediate terror in Liam's eyes, the boy bracing for the inevitable punishment. Ben stopped himself. Rule 1, the kitchen is always open. He said nothing. Instead, he quietly turned back to the stove, made another sandwich, and cut it in half. He walked to a drawer, pulled out a Ziploc bag, and put the new sandwich inside. He also grabbed an apple and put it in the bag. He walked over to the table and gently placed the bag next to Liam's elbow. This is for later, Ben said softly. In case you get hungry in your room. It's okay. You don't have to hide it. Liam stared at the plastic bag, then at Ben, his small face a mask of profound, agonizing confusion. This kindness was more destabilizing than the cruelty had been. That night, Ben found them sitting on top of their comforters, still wearing their sweatshirts over their pajamas, their shoes on the floor by their feet, ready to run. They hadn't touched the beds. It's okay to sleep in the beds, guys, Ben said gently. They're clean. Liam just stared at the hallway, his body vibrating with exhaustion, but refusing to surrender. Mia was already asleep, sitting upright, her head slumped onto Liam's shoulder. Ben sighed, his heart aching. He walked back to his room, and Zeus lifted his head. Change of plans, bud, Ben whispered. I need you. He walked the shepherd back to the guest room. Liam, would it be okay if Zeus slept in here tonight? He's a very good guard. Liam's head snapped toward him. He looked at the massive dog who stood panting softly in the doorway. Liam gave a single jerky nod. Zeus, as if understanding the command, walked into the room, circled once, and lay down on the floor between the two beds, facing the open door. A perfect guardian. Ben watched as Liam's tense shoulders deflated just an inch. The boy finally swung his legs onto the bed, though he still refused to get under the covers. Good night, Liam. 3 days passed in a strange, suspended quiet. Mia, it turned out, had a voice, a tiny rustling sound like dry leaves, which she reserved almost exclusively for Zeus. Liam had stopped wearing his shoes indoors. He still kept the Ziploc bag of food by his bed, a habit Ben now silently replenished each night. But he had finally slept under the covers. The house was running low on essentials. Ben couldn't leave them alone, not with the All Points bulletin on Drake still active. All right, team, he announced. We're going on a supply run to the general store. Zeus comes too. Liam's head snapped up. His eyes immediately went to the front window. He's out there. I know, Ben said, his voice firming. And I'm right here. You are safe with me. This is just a trip to the store. The drive was tense. The Frost Peak General Store was a small-town institution. Ben had Zeus on a short tactical leash. He let Liam push the small, squeaky cart while Mia held onto its side. For a few minutes, it felt almost normal. They were in the refrigerated aisle when the small bell over the front door tinkled. Liam froze instantly. Zeus went rigid, his head lifted, and a low, almost subsonic growl rumbled in his chest, the fur on his neck rising. Ben's hand instinctively went to the grip of his service weapon. He turned. Standing by the checkout was Drake. He was terrifyingly different. The wild ice-caked beard was gone. He was clean-shaven, wearing a clean flannel jacket and jeans. He looked less like the monster from the blizzard and more like a concerned working-class man. Drake smiled, a grotesque twisting of his features. Well, Liam, Mia, look at you two playing house. Mia let out a small, strangled sound and vanished behind Liam, who instinctively shoved the grocery cart forward. Drake, Ben said. His voice dropped into the flat, authoritative, no-negotiation tone of a cop. He stepped slightly in front of the cart. There's an APB for your arrest. You need to leave now. Drake raised his hands in a mockery of surrender, his smile widening. Now, hold on, officer. I just wanted to see my kids. I've been worried sick. I heard some crazy story about them being found in the woods. I've been looking everywhere. You abandoned them in a blizzard, Ben stated, his voice dangerously quiet. That's not discipline. That's a temp. That's a hell of an accusation. Drake shot back, the rage flashing in his eyes. They're my kids. My wife, their mother. She trusted me with them. You got no right. You're just a cop. He took a step forward. Liam, Mia, stop this nonsense. Come on, let's go home. No. The word wasn't a plea. It was a roar. Liam, shaking with a new kind of energy, not just fear, but pure, unadulterated rage, grabbed a heavy can of beef soup from the lower shelf. He held it up like a rock. You stay away, he screamed. You're not our dad. You're not. The store went utterly silent. Mr. Henderson, the elderly owner behind the counter, slowly picked up the store's telephone receiver. Zeus was no longer growling. He was standing, all 90 pounds of muscle vibrating in a low, ready crouch. His teeth bared in a silent snarl. Drake, Ben said. You have 10 seconds to walk out that door before I arrest you. 10. 9. Drake's eyes flickered. He looked from Ben's unyielding stance to the defiant 7-year-old to the terrifyingly quiet K9. He was trapped. The public persona dissolved. The raw, cold malice returned. He pointed a single trembling finger at Liam. You're just like her, he hissed. Your mom? She thought she was smart, too, hiding things. He smiled, a final awful flash of teeth. You think you're safe? You're just a brat in a cop's house. You can't hide forever. I'll be back for what's mine. He turned and stalked out of the store, the bell tinkling violently in his wake. Liam was still shaking. The can of soup held aloft. Ben knelt slowly, putting a hand on the boy's rigid shoulder. You can put it down, Liam. He's gone. Liam dropped the can. He didn't cry. He didn't move toward Ben. He launched himself sideways, burying his face deep into Zeus's thick fur. The drive back was suffocating. When they got back to the A-frame, the house no longer felt like a refuge. It felt like a target. Ben's movements lost their awkward paternal hesitation and regained the sharp economic precision of a cop. Officer Carter, Liam whispered. Is he coming here? Ben stopped. He's not getting in this house, Ben said, his voice flat. He pulled out his radio. 20 minutes later, Officer Riley Davis stepped out of her patrol SUV. She was Ben's regular partner, sharp, energetic, and possessed a biting, pragmatic wit. Got your call, she said. Heard from Henderson. You had a visitor. Ben nodded grimly. He made contact. He's clean-shaven, playing the concerned father card, but he threatened the boy. Riley swore under her breath. Okay, so what's the play? He's coming here, Riley, Ben said. He's not running. He's hunting. Right. Riley unzipped her tactical jacket. Let's fortify this place. For the next hour, they installed motion sensors, checked locks on every window. While Riley did a perimeter walk, Ben knelt in front of Liam. Liam, we're going to have a new lesson. This is the most important one. He pointed to the old-fashioned landline phone. You know this number? He wrote 911 on a notepad. If he comes, if I'm not here, you don't fight him. You don't talk to him. Your only job is Mia. You grab her. You go to that big coat closet in the hallway. That's the safe room. You lock the deadbolt. And you call this number. You tell them your name, and you tell them Officer Carter's house. Can you do that? Liam stared at the numbers, his face pale, but his eyes focused. He nodded. A single sharp jerk. Good. Zeus will be here. His job is to give you time. Your job is to call. The next morning, the call came. Ben stood at the door, his conflict palpable. I have to go, team. It's just to the station. I'll be back in an hour. Zeus, Ben said, kneeling. Watch them. He used the German command for guard duty. Zeus's ears perked, and he let out a low, assenting whine. Ben left. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Liam was just starting to breathe again when Zeus suddenly stood, his body going rigid, a low, guttural growl starting deep in his chest. Liam, Mia whispered. Zeus was staring at the kitchen window. And then they heard it. The crunch of boots on frozen snow. Closet now. Liam grabbed Mia's arm, yanking her down the hall. He shoved her into the deep coat closet, scrambled in after her, and fumbled with the deadbolt. It clicked into place just as they heard the sound of shattering glass. Drake was in the house. The explosion of noise was terrifying. It was the full-throated protection instinct roar of a 90-pound German shepherd. They heard a crash as Zeus intercepted Drake. Get off me, you damn mutt. Drake bellowed. Then came a sharp metallic thud, followed by a yelp of pain from Zeus. Liam's blood ran cold. He's hurting him. Mia, stay here. Don't move, Liam whispered. And before she could protest, he unlatched the deadbolt, slipped out, and ran. Not to the fight, but to the landline in the kitchen. He peeked around the corner. The scene was chaos. Drake was wielding a crowbar. Zeus had him by the arm, dragging him down, but the dog was bleeding from a cut on his head. As Drake raised the crowbar again, Liam snatched the phone. 911. A calm voice answered. Frost Peak 911. What is your emergency? He's here. He's in the house, Liam shrieked. He's hurting my dog. He's at Officer Carter's house. Please,